Greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for the ISH Care Vigil for such a time as this. Tonight we gather together to witness with mutual respect and shared humanity the intense emotions surrounding the death of George Floyd, the trial of Officer Derek Chauvin, and the broader racial and cultural contexts. We have a series of individuals who have agreed to be present with us this evening. Collections from the Houston community, leaders in the Houston community. We'll be delivering remarks, reflections, readings, followed by moments of silence. So between each speaker, there'll be about a minute of a moment of silence. To begin this evening, I welcome Dr. John K. Graham, President and CEO of the Institute for Spirituality and Health.
Almost a year ago, a 46-year-old black man was murdered on suspicion of making a purchase with a counterfeit $20 bill. The video recording of the police officer's knee on Floyd's neck is forever planted in our minds and in our hearts. In the days following Floyd's death, at our Institute for Spirituality and Health, we invited the Black members of our Board of Trustees to share their experience of racism. We were shocked by what we heard. These were outstanding men and women who had achieved much in their own professions. And that is, of course, why they were on our board. Yet each revealed stories which we never expected to hear from their lips. Stories of their being chased home as a child by gangs of white kids, of being called the N-word throughout their life, of being stopped by police while driving to their own home and being told they couldn't possibly live in this neighborhood. Nor will I forget the handsome 6'8" black man who shared with tears in his corner of his eye that not a single day goes by that he isn't afraid he'll be arrested on a minor traffic violation or will be harmed in yet another way simply because he is black. At the Institute for Spirituality and Health, we refuse to remain silent any longer. Nor will we turn aside from the issues raised by Floyd's death. We recognize that racism is far-reaching. It affects both black and white, and impacts the very spirituality and health of our nation. Simply put, we must not permit this blight on our nation to continue, a nation that was founded on freedom and equality for all. Tonight, we join with you, our viewing audience, pledging to continue to do what we can do to make certain these tragedies never happen again. Tonight, we will hear from black and white men and black and white women. We will stand together in unity, declaring we are one people with one voice and one message. And that message is that racism in America must end, and it must end now.
And now George Anderson, Chief Operating Officer at the Fountain of Praise Church and Board Chair at the Institute for Spirituality and Health.
For it is with your heart that you believe and are justified, and it is with your mouth that you profess your faith and are saved. For there is no difference between Jew and Gentile. The same Lord is Lord of all and richly blesses all who call upon him. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. During these troubling times, we as a nation need to seek salvation. America is at a crossroads following a year of racial protest, a deadly pandemic, political change, and now the Derek Chauvin verdict. Let me first say that my thoughts are with the George Floyd family, a few of which are members of our congregation. But also let me express my condolences and love for other families who have lost loved ones unjustly, those who have not made it to the attention of social media or mainstream media. During these troubling times, we've been plagued by the devastating effects of COVID-19. We've lost over 31.8 million people have been affected. We've had over 568,000 deaths. And yet, the vaccines provide us with a sense of salvation and some sense of hope for a brighter future. What about the social injustice? How will we seek salvation? I believe and affirm that we must first confess that this disease is racism, a disease of the heart that stains the very soul of America. We must all collectively take a stand. We must profess the horrors and the devastating effects that have been inflicted on peoples of color. We still live in a country where Black people are 3 times more likely to be killed by the police than white people. In a country where the criminalization of Black and brown communities is prioritized over community-based solutions. A country where racial disparities are deeply rooted in every fiber of our lives. The Derek Chauvin verdict only provides a start for accountability, not full justice. Real justice is more than one verdict. Real justice means that we must seek systemic transformation to create a system that is rooted in care and love for all people, free of racial oppression. Stand with us today as we confess our sins as a nation and begin the process of healing. As we call on the name of the Lord, let us look forward to a country free of bias, free of racism in every facet of our lives.
And now, Reverend Jim Bankston, Senior Pastor Emeritus at St. Paul's United Methodist Church and board member of the Institute for Spirituality and Health.
Words were written 100 years ago, almost exactly, in 1921 by James Weldon Johnson, one of the great African-American preachers of the era. The words were set to music in the hymn, "Lift Every Voice and Sing." Perhaps you know the hymn. It has been referred to as the Black National Anthem. The first verse says this: "Lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring. ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Those last words capture for me where we are, yet 100 years later. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has brought us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. We all must acknowledge a dark past that is a stain upon our nation, that is a beginning, and we must make corrections. And I trust that we are at now a hopeful present through too many painful experiences. And I believe that now is the time to work together and walk together till victory is won. A dark past, a hopeful present, work to be done together for a bright future for all of us.
And now, Dr. Sonja Sloan, First Lady, the Luke Church, and board member at the Institute for Spirituality and Health.
Thank you to the Institute of Spirituality and Health and to all of my board members for a safe place and for a space in which we can share all of the emotions that our country and we are personally feeling. Tonight, I speak to you as a First Lady, which is the wife of a pastor of a mega church here in Northeast Houston, the Luke, my husband, Dr. Timothy Sloan. But I also speak to you as a mother. There are no words to truly convey the overwhelmingly and endless emotional roller coaster I've been on in the past few days. I've been hopeless, fearful, depressed, saddened, because I am a mother of 3 beautiful, intelligent, and innocent African-American children. They really don't understand what's going on in America right now or the impact and the power of the moment that we're living in right now. I have 2 teenage daughters, Sarah and Soren, 15 and 13, and they do teenage girl things. They love boys, they TikTok, they Instagram, they shop, they make up. And I have a handsome and beautiful son, Timothy J. We call him Tim J. He's 9. He's a little shy, but so smart. And he's somewhat empathic in the sense of he can sense people's feelings and emotions. So this past year has been really, really difficult for us to share a lot of the information that we have seen on television and heard on radio. We've intentionally turned off the TV and silenced the radio for that very traumatic experience for all of our children. But what I want to tell you more than anything else, that as parents, we've had to discuss some hard conversations that no children, definitely not three beautiful, innocent, intelligent African-American children, should ever have to hear at the ages of 15, 13, and 9. Conversations about their skin color and being in certain situations in which they may be mistreated or talked about or called names. We've had to tell them about, if you're ever with a friend and something happens and there's a police encounter, literally our church had police officers come and discuss with our teens of our church of how to respond and just to get home and be alive. And so I, as the mother of 3 beautiful, intelligent, and innocent African-American children, I'm saddened, but I'm soul searching, and I'm surrendering to the part of participating in what our future holds. I'm honest that I'm still fearful, but I believe that change is possible. I have to believe that. I'm tired, you guys. I'm so tired to turn on the television one more time to see the life of another child. Yesterday, as the verdict is being handed down, of a 15-year-old daughter, because it was too close to home, because my Sarah is 15. So I am a praying mother, though. I know how to cover my children with the word of God. I know how to anoint their heads so that they have favor. And I believe that these 3 beautiful, intelligent, and innocent African-American children, they're my hope, because I don't ever want their names to be a hashtag on social media, trending on Twitter, just because of some type of systemic racism that we didn't try to stop in our generation. I'm grateful. I'm grateful that justice prevailed yesterday, and I'm glad that the scales of justice have tipped in the way of George Floyd. But I'm still devastated about all those that it did not. So I'm a realist. And I know because of America's history, we have so much more work to do before generations of racial inequality can be reversed, and perhaps a better or a new narrative of racial equality can be started. And so I can breathe again, just a little, because the verdict was a start. And tonight's vigil is a start. And I now, as a mother of 3 beautiful, innocent African-American children, Sarah, 15, Soren, 13, and Tim J, 9, I know I have to be part of the start of something bigger than all of us individually, but hopefully collectively, something that will leave a legacy of change for the next generation, of a better lifestyle for all of us to live in harmony together. I am hopeful.
Now, David Leslie, Executive Director, the Rothko Chapel.
I feel that we are living at the convergence of at least 4 pandemics: COVID-19, systemic racism, a weaponized society, and intractable social inequities. As such, and whether we are aware of it or not, we are experiencing a spiritual crisis of monumental proportion that is sapping our ability to live constructively with one another in both our commonalities and our differences. Separatist screeds that drown out calls for unity, daily reports of firearm deaths, the lasting impact of endemic poverty sap the soul and the human spirit. As such, and to varying degrees of intensity, we find ourselves exhausted and fatigued. Fear, uncertainty, numbness, anger, sadness are just a few of the emotions that impact our physical, mental, and spiritual well-being, and the idea that positive and lasting change is possible. Even as the verdict was read in the trial of Derek Chauvin, who was rightfully convicted for the murder of George Floyd, questions remained on many people's hearts, such as, will we ever engage in the deliberations and actions needed to permanently dismantle oppressive systems such as white privilege? And will those who have power boldly use their position and resources available to them to further justice, equity, and the common good? Thankfully, during these times of uncertainty and social unrest, for the prophets, the artists, the activists, and the community leaders who make clear that change is possible and that death and destruction do not have the final word. Tonight, we lift up the family of George Floyd and so many other families who have suffered at the hands of an oppressive system, who are doing all they can to foster both peace and justice and the rightness of relationships. We give thanks for those who struggle in the midst of the COVID crisis, make sure their neighbors are healthy and cared for. We celebrate the acts of solidarity when neighbors stand with neighbors who are under attack for just being who they are, whereby creating a bulwark of love, making sure that hate does not win and have the final say of the day. And we extend our blessings on all those who advocate, oftentimes under great duress, for changes of perspectives, policies, and practices that lead to a safer, sustainable, and more equitable society. Together, may these acts of solidarity, justice, and kindness help ignite a new sense of hope in all of us and infuse our individual and collective will with greater energy to do all we can to further a world of possibility for all people. For as Nelson Mandela said at another time of crisis, and I quote, "When people are determined, they can overcome anything," unquote. Especially when we acknowledge our shared humanity and the ages to join together to transform the world in which we live. And it is here and in that place we discover and experience a renewal of the spirit and the vision of a world of peace so necessary for this and future generations.
And now, Dr. Jeremiah Piercy, postdoctoral fellow, the Institute for Spirituality and Health.
Good evening, everyone. This has been a very tumultuous year and a half, to say the least. And when I was first asked to give the speech for this vigil tonight, I had something really pulling on me to write a poem. And now I'm not typically a poet, but something about the mode and the meaning behind it just really spoke to me. And so tonight I'd like to share that poem with you. Does your skin suffocate? When you leave the house, does it cause ire to precipitate? When you drive your car, do you contemplate potentialities of the last breath you'll take? You can't escape. You're bound by your color while you vie for space, to breathe. Give us space to seethe. Give us space to grieve the 300-year doctrine that my life is without meaning. We've been told we're dreaming, the unseen. It's a fallacy. It can't be. Racism ended in the 19th century. You don't deserve my empathy. All lives matter. But my feelings are real. And though I've been told not to feel, I feel. The dogs of oppression nipping at my heels. When we walk or when we talk, I can hear the house coming up and down the block. Red and blue. It doesn't mean for us what it does for you. It's a pain of identity we're going through. It's dying of a kind as the sheer terror sculpts a frame of mind. Afraid to move a muscle, it takes just one time, but it's fine. Just give me space to seethe. Give me space to grieve. The chains still clink when we apply for jobs, when we bird the park or go for jogs. The cross still burns with voter suppression laws. The Confederate cause redlining draws a line. That this isn't we, it's us. Everyone not on Rose's bus, everyone that wants to stand for their fellow man will take your hand. Against the system, redundant in its equality. From 1619 to George Floyd's death scene and beyond. Is this momentum or the redundant system powering on? Can we all just breathe? Or must we always grieve?
And now, Rev Kim Mabry of Interfaith Ministries of Greater Houston.
Thank you. During this time in our country, during this almost 1-year anniversary of the death of George Floyd and the end of the trial of Derek Chauvin, we at Interfaith Ministries for Greater Houston remain committed to being a positive force for connection in our diverse city. We at IM are steadfast in our commitment to furthering this goal through dialogue, collaboration, and service, and in fostering respect for our neighbors. Over this past year, since the passing of George Floyd, we have looked for a greater understanding of the state of racism in our society and sought opportunities for kinship with those who are hurting and those who can help us act in solidarity with our community. During this time of contemplation with our friends of the Interfaith community of Greater Houston, we offer these words as a prayer inspired by the hymn by Anna Briggs. Would you pray with me? Creator of all of us, we lay our broken world before you, in sorrow at your feet, haunted by hunger, war, and fear, oppressed by power and hate. We bring our broken towns, our neighbors hurt and bruised. You show us how old pain and wounds for new life can be used. Where human life seems less than profit, might, and pride, may we all unite in you, who has lived and loved and died with us too. We bring our broken hopes for lives of dignity. Workless and overworked, you love us and call us to be free. We bring our broken loves, friends parted, families torn apart, but through life and death we see that love is forevermore. We bring our broken selves, confused and closed and tired. Then through your gift of healing grace, new purpose is inspired. O Spirit, on us breathe, with life and strength anew. Find in us love and hope and trust, and lift us up to you. May we find in this brokenness of tragedy a time to rebuild. May we remember that the worst thing is never the last thing when we set our sights on love and healing. Amen.
And now, Scott Rainey, Rotary International.
Matthew West wrote, I woke up this morning, saw a world full of trouble now. I thought, how did we ever get so far down? And how's it ever going to turn around? So I turned my eyes to heaven and I thought, God, why don't you do something? Well, I just couldn't bear the thought of people living in poverty, children sold into slavery. The thought disgusted me. So I shook my fist at heaven. I said, God, why don't you do something? He said, I did. I created you. Now listen, if not us, then who? If not me and you, right now? Well, it's time for us to do something. Rotary is a global network of 1.2 million neighbors, friends, leaders, and problem solvers who see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. Solving real problems takes commitment and vision. Rotary's people of action have used their passion energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. We're always working to better our world, and we stay committed to the end. Rotarians live by the four-way test, wherein the basic principles of good relationships are the foundation of our actions. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Rotary District 5890 in the greater Houston region recognizes that we are imperfect. We must take action to create lasting change. The time is upon us to have the difficult conversations and create a platform where everyone can share their truth so that we may come to a common truth. We have work to be done, and now is the time to do something.
And now, final speaker for the evening, Lawrence Larry Payne, Director of Race, Reconciliation, and Response, the Institute for Spirituality and Health.
My dear sisters and brothers, glad we're here together this evening. We've all witnessed in the last few days a teachable moment, humanity over inhumanity. What have we learned in the 30 years after Rodney King? We as a society have learned to tolerate and to accept that which diminishes human life and the human spirit. However, accountability has finally shown up. It is the first step toward justice. Change comes, but it comes slowly. Remember, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. So as we now begin in earnest to do the hard work of moving toward what real justice can look like, feel like, act like, what will guide us? What will facilitate that bend toward justice? Wisdom. Wisdom. As we run toward each other rather than away from each other, as we strive to create our collective future together and become truly, truly, once and for all, the wisdom community. From the Book of Wisdom. Wisdom shines bright and never fades. She is easily discerned by those who love her. She is found by those who seek her. She is quick to make herself known to those who desire knowledge of her. Those who rise early in search of her will not go away weary. You will find her at your front door, seated and waiting for you. To set all one's thoughts on her is the perfect form of prudence. To lie awake in the cause is the shortest way to peace of mind. For she herself ranges in search of those who are worthy of her. She appears to them with kindly intent, and in all their purposes, she meets them halfway. The desire to learn and to understand is the true beginning of wisdom. The concern for learning and understanding means the love of wisdom.
Thank you to all who joined us this evening. Special thank you to our speakers who joined on short notice. And thank you to those who came to be with us this evening and to hold space.